Okay, welcome to part 2 of my review of Sorcerer's Apprentice. So we got some of the basic analysis out of the way. Uh, the science versus magic, or actually the lack of it versus, which I still really love that beat. It's something I've always loved in films. Well, not films, but anything that kind of takes this hint goes, there's no conflict between the two. They two can work very well together. I love it when they do that. That's something I kind of believe. I don't see any conflict or inherent conflict. Obviously, when you go to extremes, there's conflict, which might be more of the message. There's a wonderful South Park episode on that, where they go into the future and atheists have taken over the world. Not taken over the world, but everyone's become atheists, and they're still fighting. They're no longer fighting over religion. They're fighting over different versions of atheism. And the whole point of it being, yeah, these are basic human flaws. People fight over very basic reasons and basic disagreements, that there's no perfect solution from isms. And after that, so they go, and that's the ultimate reveal later on, is, oh, we dropped all isms. And I believe Kyle goes, oh, or Cartman goes, oh, so there's no fighting or anything? And they go, no, of course there's still wars. The stupid French-Chinese want to take over Hawaii. I'm digressing to that episode, and I'm supposed to be talking about the plot. There are some people. I had a friend of mine who saw this film. He did not like it, and I think the problem, if there is a problem with this film, is the very beginning. The very first scene is very, very rushed. Looks like this scene was originally a 10 to 15 minute long opening sequence that they felt was slowing down the movie. Probably because, right after this they have then Dave as a kid in year 2000, and there's a very 10-15 minute long opening sequence to that. But that's very key to the central plot. So if they kept both at the same length, you were looking at a, 30 minute opening segment before we really move into the main plot. I still think they should have actually shortened the second part of the opening and kept this one at the 10 or 15 minute mark, because it was very destroying, and it looked like it was actually well done if it was left. But the basic plot is Morgana, the classic Arthurian villain, is attacking the castle of Merlin, and his 3 apprentices come only. His one apprentice, Horvath, has helped Morgana, or turned over to the dark side. And Nicolas Cage, and his name is Balthazar, which is a really cool name, come to stop him. Merlin winds up getting killed, but Balthazar traps Morgana in this little doll thing, and Horvath runs off. But Morgana is trapped because the 3rd apprentice, the female apprentice of Merlin, kind of traps her soul into hers. And they kind of merge the two, and Cage is forced to trap both of them in this little doll thing. So that's the central plot, and why later on he's not very happy with his apprentice having a girlfriend, because he's been burned, as of course all major characters have to be. You can't have a character, apparently our mentor, that's not in a stable relationship. Apparently that's movie sin. But it sounds like a very basic scene. But you could tell when they originally filmed it, it wasn't filmed in that type of quick, very basic succession. It looked like it was a very long, decent opening scene. It looked like it would have been fine if they just kept it at that original length. But because they condensed it, it had the Last Airbender effect, where everything was incredibly rushed. And I think that gave a lot of people a negative vibe. Like my friend who saw it, because he felt that was rushed, he kind of felt that the rest of the film was rushed and too fast-paced, which is not a good thing to have for a film. Look at The Last Airbender, for example. The biggest flaw with that one was the rushness. Every other flaw kind of in that film kind of stemmed from that, other than the bad dialogue. But this had good dialogue. But it starts with that. Then we get Dave as a child writing a letter, or passing a note to a girl asking, you want to be my friend or my girlfriend. she signs it as being passed, or she leaves it on a step stool when they're on a trip to New York, and it blows away, and Dave kind of runs through several blocks in New York without his class really noticing, until he comes into Balthazar's shop, and Balthazar then pulls out Merlin's ring because he's been testing children for the past 1,000 years to see if they're the chosen one. Because this is the one ring that will rule them all, and in the darkness, make a Disney film. He gets Merlin's ring, and it reacts to him. It becomes alive and wraps around his finger, and Nicolas Cage says, "Great, I found you. I've been looking for you for a while. Don't touch anything. I'm going to get you a special book." Because he's about to start training him, really. Unfortunately, as he's kind of fooling around with the ring, it's connected to the jar that he's trapped. Not only Morgana, but it's one of those, is it Babushkin or Babushkin? You know, those dolls that are, you put one doll inside of another doll, inside of another doll, inside of another doll. It's the Inception doll. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, they should have made that analogy in the Inception to those dolls, but I'm digressing. I think that's my catch theme, or that's my catchphrase now. I'm digressing. But he gets that. They crack. He accidentally opens it up and releases the last person he caught, which was Horvath. Who then Horvath and Nicolas Cage start fighting, and they accidentally tip over a jug that'll trap you in there for exactly 10 years. So it's tripped. Those two get sucked in. Nicolas Cage says to run away. That kid runs away, only he's... Of course, when he runs outside and starts screaming about there being sorcerers shooting fire and all that, his class, who's somehow right outside the door, even though he kind of was like zigzagging across the city. Very convenient on their part. They must be very good trackers. Are right there, and they look inside, and the store looks fine, so everyone thinks he's crazy. Which apparently then stigmatizes him. This one very brief incident in elementary school. I always wonder how these happen, because I know so many people from elementary school that have just done like 360s throughout their, from high school to college. I mean, this is a movie trope. I'm not questioning it too much because it's an established movie trope that if something happens to you one day as a child, that will affect you for the rest of your life. It is a rather minor incident that most people would kind of just forget about. Especially by the time he's got to high school, and this guy's at least 2 years in college, because he's 10 when the movie starts, and it takes place, the main plot starts 10 years after that. So he'd be 20, which, unless he got into college really early, he should only be a sophomore, junior maybe. Which is the other weird thing, because he's only a sophomore or junior, but he's like, his professor hasn't come into a basics physics class, which he should have only taken last year for a first year to demonstrate a Tesla coil. And normally if they do that, it'll be somebody their final semester senior year or a graduate student. But who knows? Maybe this kid's a prodigy, because actually it's explained that because of how connected magic is with physics, that's why physics to a sorcerer comes really, really easy. Again, going back to that theme that, sorcery, magic, and science go well together. We're going to get to the main plot now in part 3, so stay tuned.